right, welcome back to Morning Cafe. Time for that lifestyle segment. And today we do not want to delve much into the social issues. Okay, well, not really the social issues, but particular ones that you'd know, like for instance, talk of mental health, talk of tough times on marriages and everything. But we're just looking at the COVID-19 situation right here in the country and where we are, and the fact that we are not trying to prophesy doom, but we're just going by the president's words that I have eased some restrictions. But in the event that the numbers keep surging, in the event that I notice you do not want to abide by what has been put by the Ministry of Health as measures, then I'm afraid 21 days after we might go back to where we were. Where we were was not so sweet. Where we were was something that got very many people devastated. Where we were was at a point where very many people had lost their jobs. So if we are to go back there, it would mean probably doubling up the number of job losses, doubling up the number of frustrations, doubling up the number of mental issues in the country. So you just want to ask ourselves, what is it that we can do at this particular time to stay afloat mentally, psychologically, emotionally? Because it's very, very important if at all we are to win this fight successfully. Yesterday we had a very candid conversation on the mindset, on how you're supposed to set your mind. But I keep insisting that, in as much as you want to have a positive mindset, things might push you to a point whereby it is beyond you. It is beyond control. And so joining me is, of course, a psychologist who's going to take us through this and tell us, we're just having that candid talk and, just easing in up on the conversation and trying to understand how best we can deal at this particular time or deal with this situation at this time. Rab Nancy is not, a new face to you, I want to say. For now, I'll call her a household name right there, because most of the times I've heard her, when we're talking about psychological matters and emotional issues and just getting that stability. And yes, at least we thank God that, some people are able to go back to work. Businesses are able to go, to be conducted in a normal way. At least we can see staff moving from, Nairobi to Mombasa and vice versa in different parts of the country. But there's so much fear that we might go back to where we were.
And looking at the numbers, people have that were able to be scared because they are still going higher and higher. And as the president said, we're looking at something that maybe, and anxiety is there, it's building. Because if you've just opened your business and now looking at the numbers, you must be a scared person.
Yeah, you must be.
You just got maybe a job, you just got recalled, and looking at the numbers and all that. I've seen the tourism sector is opening. Yeah. What does it mean for them, considering that people will now be moving? Will that make the numbers even go higher? Yeah. And after 21 days, maybe His Excellency says, now we can't handle this, we need to lock down. Yeah. So psychologically, we need to be prepared for that in case it happens.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, and you talk about the tourism industry, and I just thought, well, while others are out there trying to gain strength and stability back again, others are actually crumbling even more. Yeah. In as much as maybe there was that ease. That is more devastating, because when you think that, okay, well, finally, at least there's some ease of restriction, and maybe we can be able to function. It looks like times are getting even tougher. The road Erol, one of the biggest hotels right here in the country, closing down and telling people to go back home. And that scenario where I have personally seen a friend of mine receiving a letter from their school where the children go to, and they're being told that, we're going to close down and we're offering this building for rentals and all that. So that means also for parents, you need to start moving around, looking for a school for your child, buying uniform while you have nothing.
I think we should be ready to accommodate change, because it will happen. That is inevitable, because the COVID crisis has brought about a lot of situations where we cannot control, like closure of schools. We've seen all the private schools are struggling, and some have even opted to put fields as gardens to be able to survive. So if they don't have a survival strategy, they are going to close down. And maybe even taking it as a rental is a survival strategy. So we need to prepare ourselves. But right now, it's just matters of dealing with the crisis. And not really thinking about what will happen to our children later. Of course, they are in a mental crisis themselves, because especially the candidates, I feel for them because they had prepared.
Yeah.
Next year I'll be in university, next year I'll be joining Form 1, and their mindset was set. And these are children.
Right.
Now, being told to rewind a whole year is like a punishment.
I know it is.
For something that they didn't do any wrong. I don't know why we had to tell them that at that stage, yet there are things that can be done. But then again, here we are. So right now it's just dealing with our safety, dealing with our health first, and making sure that we survive through it in order for us to be able to think about what to do in case the crisis ends. And I think it will end soon if we all take precautions, if we all stop assuming that, you know, Kenyans are really funny because you can hear this conversation of, I don't know anyone who's died of COVID and such things. So if we stop taking it as a joke, I think we can fight through it even without a lockdown. But if we're still taking it as business as usual, we're in for a big surprise.
Or a psychological perspective, professional perspective for that matter.
Yes.
Just how easy is it to get someone to just level up and, you know, take it easy and say it's okay, let's first of all deal with taking care of my health, and whatever it is that comes next, we will deal with that. When you know very well that you do not have money for rent, you know very well that you do not have money for food, and mind you, your landlord does not really care.
Yeah, it's true, very rich.
And when you think of moving out, it's even more expensive to move out today in Nairobi, I'll tell you that for free. So just on a professional point of view, how do we approach that to that point where you can say it's okay, well, it is here, let's deal with it and wait for what is going to happen next?
The first step is appreciating what you have. Are you in good health? Are your family in good health? Because there are situations that are even worse than where you are at. And it's good to even listen to other people's stories.
Right.
Universality kind of helps you cope better. So if I listen to your story, I'll kind of like feel like I am a bit better off.
Misery loves
company.
He loves company. It's that kind of thing.
No. It's just that you appreciate better what you have when you hear what people are suffering from. You see, sorry.
It's okay.
For instance, if you are struggling with even the thoughts of where your kids will go to school, someone else doesn't even have anywhere to stay, no food and all that. Right. And then now you start strategizing, if I'll not be allowed to go to work, how will I survive? What do I have? What do I have for survival, first of all, in terms of food, in terms of money, and what can I do now and still ensure that I'm safe? It's not time for spending. It's not time for all this travel if you don't have to, because you don't know where, in case there's a lockdown, you will be. Yeah. And let's assume you just went for a trip somewhere where you didn't necessarily need it, and lockdown happens, and you're in this hotel. What happens to you? Right. So we need to kind of minimize on that and just go into, it's called survival, whatever. Yeah.
Tactics.
Yes. Because now we don't have to go buying stuff. We don't have to go spending all around or shopping everywhere else. We've seen flights are resuming. Yes. So you see all these. Yes. Because the more you travel, the more you expose yourself, the more you expose your family. So what is it that you can do now and ensure that you're happy and still not travel? Or if you have to travel, what do you do to ensure that everyone else around you is really safe? Well,
the excitement is real, and we come back to expound some more on how best we can deal with the fears that come along with COVID-19. And we also look at the leadership, because there's that assumption that, you know what, yes, CS Mutahi Kagwe has it all figured out. President Uhuru Kenyatta has it all figured out. Magoha has it all figured out. But in real sense, they are struggling and are, you know, worried as much as we are. So after this break, we're right back with much more. And welcome back to Morning Cafe. Important that you interact with Ash. The numbers, yes, of course, the numbers running down on your screen. You can call us live, or you can send the messages and we'll be sampling them as we proceed with the show Also engage us on our social media platforms, our hashtag Good Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47, and we get to hear some of course, the take or what your take is in regards to the topic that we are discussing. And we're all about managing fears during this time of COVID-19. And Nancy Rahab joins me this morning. She is a psychologist and, takes us through what exactly it is that we should do on a professional perspective to ensure that we sail out of this and, we stand aground again. And Nancy, just coming back to that, the fears, the anxiety that comes along with that, just at what point then do we say that this is how we, that this needs to be managed and this is how we get to manage it?
First of all, anxiety is getting stressed over things you cannot control.
Okay.
Because, God, this thing is happening. So it's just waiting for it to unfold until it comes to a completion of whatever cycle it is in. So if you're so much worried about what will happen, you will lose it, because a lot of things will change and we'll have to adapt to that.
Yeah.
So being open to change is something that we cannot control right now. And this involves not just even the schools that are not closing. Some of us won't even afford them, So we have to be ready for that and be okay with it, because it's not our fault this thing happened. It's nobody's fault. Yeah. And when a pandemic happens, it's just that we need to survive through it in order for tomorrow to happen. Because if we stress over, we're going into mental trauma, and some of us will even lose it, things will happen. Right. So you don't have to worry about things you cannot control. So whatever things you can control, do deal with that. Let's say, for instance, if you're a business person who just deals with the day-to-day business. That 5 shillings you're making is what you're putting bread on the table with. What can you do to ensure that business is still on, even if there's a scenario where there's a lockdown? Who are your customers? What can you do to ensure that you get these products to them? And I've seen a lot of people have gone to online sales, which is really working well, because you don't have to move. You just have to order, and a delivery guy comes. After you pick, you sanitize whatever you're sanitizing, and you're back to normal. But there are people who don't even have that shilling. They have to go to industrial area to work in order to get that few coins to buy food for their family. What will happen to that? And that's when now we maybe rely on the government to come up with plans on how they can be able to survive. What food can be given to these people? What other NGOs can come in and chip in? Because some of these people cannot do without working. And those who can work and even stay at work, what is the agreement with the employer? So those are some of the things that people should be sitting down at the moment and thinking through in order for us to survive well through this.
And speaking of which, now you mentioned the government, and reminds me that this comes with double trouble, or even triple trouble for some people in terms of how they get to handle themselves, the fear and the anxiety, in the sense that you have to deal with what it is that you're going through. If you're a parent, then you have to deal with what it is that your child is going through, and getting them to that point of understanding that this is a situation. If you are a person who's at the helm, you have you're supposed to proceed and actually take care of the needs of other people equally. And that's why I brought the aspect of the leadership in charge and all that, because in as much as we'd be looking at them expecting to get answers, they equally are grappling and trying to find out how best can we get to handle this. So what is the scenario? What is the case for the people who are experiencing double, triple trouble?
And I think most of us are, because you see family, there's crisis within the family, crisis at work, crisis everywhere, and you have to deal with all that as a person. And most people have lost jobs, and we expect these leaders to come up with solutions. But remember, this is a new thing to everybody. So, and the trends are actually so new that they kind of say, now I think you can get it through this, I think you can get it. It's so new that it's actually, people are still researching around it. So you have to know that and not expect too much. Because when you manage your expectations and know now, and at the moment we are on our own, the government has said you go to church, do whatever you want to do, ensure that the church is told to ensure that all the safety parameters are met. But then again, they are not really restricting. They've kind of fallen back a bit. And that is making the religious leaders very, very, they're very responsible for everything that will happen everywhere, and a bit skeptical about everything. So in a way, we should also be the same. We shouldn't be enjoying the freedom, as we were saying, freedom is coming in, freedom is here, and then exposing ourselves. And I was reading somewhere where it said, do not interact with someone without a mask, or who is not social distancing, or don't go for services where these things are not provided for, whatever the directives of the governments are. That is one precaution. But then I'm looking at a poor person who's been thrown out of his house because he cannot afford rent. Even that mask is not a necessity, you see. They just need to look for somewhere where they can sit down and, think through, where do I go from here? And the travel is also because maybe people don't have rent. They want to go back home where there's at least a kitchen garden, and you can go to the posho mill and then pluck your sukuma and you survive through. That is also, it could be a survival strategy, and maybe that's why the travel was allowed a bit. But I'm looking at travel that is there because of leisure, and you feel like you want to go to a specific hotel and at least enjoy. You won't even enjoy yourself because everyone is so like,
But you see, also this one is an issue, because that brings me to the point of adjustments, adjustments in terms of times. People now have more free time, adjustments in terms of, the ways of life and all that, adjustments in terms of, kuna wale wanasema ikifunguliwa hivi kula mpaka sijui wapi. Some of them say, I'll go out there party. If I receive a phone call, show up, I will show up. Because then now we see the importance of the things that we are not able to enjoy right now. So these adjustments, how do you get to adjust? How do you get to balance? I know it's been like months of adjusting, but we still have not been able to figure it out. To figure it out.
I think the bottom line is knowing that it's not yet over. It's not yet uhuru, because if we assume that now that we have freedom, we can do whatever, it's business as usual. That's why I think the trends are also getting to be, the statistics are a bit alarming because of that. And then we're looking at the young people. If you confine young people for even a week, once you let them go, they're all over the place. So I think we also need to do more adverts as the government and tell people this is what is happening, this is what you're exposing yourself to when you go to these parties, this is what will happen to you, and such things. Because you don't know, this might be your best friend you're partying with, but you don't know where they've been or who they've been exposed to and all that. And COVID is so real that you can only see it when someone dies and you see them bury him in a hurry and in a way that you wouldn't want to be buried in such a way. So I think we need to see more of that so that people can so that reality can sink, not to traumatize people, but for the government to go out there and say this is happening. And as I was driving, I've seen like 7 ambulances on my way from home to come in here, and that is something. And it's telling me it's not business as usual. As much as they're saying hospitals are closing down, I think there's something more to that. The other thing is the government needs also to sensitize people on some of the things that when you feel sick, what kind of sickness is this and where exactly do you go to? Because people are dying, rushing to a local clinic where they can't even get a ventilator. And the struggle of actually even going there, and people are dying in the process because they don't know which hospitals, what facilities do I seek, or services do I seek when I feel this and this. I think information is still not enough out there so that people can know. And when there is such a pandemic, everyone has these symptoms. Sometimes you feel like you have this cough.
Honestly, the first times, the numerous times I felt like I had a headache. The numerous times I felt like, I had a dry cough. I don't know. It was terrible.
That is quite normal. It's psychological because that is what you're exposed to. The information on the media is all about COVID. These are the symptoms. You walk anywhere, your place of work, if you sneeze, do this. It's all about COVID. So you end up feeling like, I think I have this thing, and then the next day you're fine. You cough a bit and you're like, I think we should all get tested. And then people are getting extorted out of that because now you end up going to the wrong clinic. They take up a lot of your money, which you need to spend sparingly. People don't have money at the moment, and those are some of the things that I think the government should be now working on to enlighten people that if you feel like you have a headache for 2 days, you've been sneezing, you have this fever, you know, because right now, when you have fever, you're really stigmatized.
You're stigmatized. And now, where's the discipline, by the way, brings in the question of discipline. Because, you see, if I have fever, some of us would say, okay, confidently, let me go and seek medical advice. Some of us will choose not to do that, you know. Some of us would go to a point whereby if you feel like this is it, you want to ensure that you spread it to almost everyone. So there's so much that, of course, comes along with the discipline. And I think that's what President Uhuru Kenyatta called upon, you know, Kenyans to uphold, you know, the discipline, the fact that, you know that this is incumbent upon you to ensure that you uphold the measures that have been put on board. So equally, I think it's a psychological factor based on the information that is circulated around. Where do we strike a balance to that point where we can, you know, again get discipline?
I think it's first knowing that it's not a joke.
Yes.
So if you're coughing, if you have this fever and you need to seek attention, medical attention immediately, because you can save your life. You know, you might go spreading it at work or wherever you feel like, but not everyone is as strong or has a strong immunity. You might lose friends and you will not choose who you will lose. You can't go exposing it to your enemy and think this one now is a done deal. No. It doesn't work like that. So that person that you really like might be the person that it doesn't have enough immunity. So I think when you know that, even looking at parents who are old, you know, and even children, we have even the medics who are out there working. There's a shortage because most are sick. So just taking care of yourself, you've taken care of others. Ensuring that you're not exposed, you've taken care of your family and your friends and people you care about. Don't worry about those you don't care about. You see, because for instance, you couldn't be always close to people you don't like. These are people you are close to. So that ensures you to have that discipline, because you might also get exposed to it, and you as a person, because you really want to spread it, you don't have enough immunity, and you've not even tested for that, you see. So it doesn't really necessarily mean that once you get it, you'll spread it and you'll be okay. You might also die, you see, in that process. It's not a joke. So once we take it as a serious issue, I think then we'll take precautions. We'll wear our masks, we'll ensure that we're not exposed. Once you are, you inform the people you've been with that you've been exposed, so that they also take precautions. So I don't just go sleep and maybe I have asthma issues and then it hits me innocently and I'm thinking that I'm not exposed. Yet my friend came and, you know, and there I go and I'm not able to wake up. So we should also have that human element in us. Let's be human. Let's take care of each other. Let's take care of the people around us by taking care of ourselves.
And now that you bring in the human aspect, I think it's also important that we also address that. Yes, we also have our fair share of fears. But sometimes people come with their own fears, and you know, they present it on your table, and they expect you to just give a solution. And I think I have experienced that so far, and I've equally presented my own issues, because amid all this COVID-19 talk that we're having, there are also other issues that, yes, have cropped up courtesy of that, but equally, you know, others that were there. And how do you get to that point where you're able to deal with your own troubles and equally accommodate and incorporate your brother's trouble, support each other. You know, this person calls you and tells you, you know, just give me 100 bob for food or for burger, and then you're thinking, all right, yes, I have 100 bob, but I'll need that 100 bob tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. So how do you get to strike that balance and say, it's okay, I'll carry my burden and I'll try carry somebody else's, and for how long?
First of all, it's good to reassure the other person. You'll be fine. I might not have it, I might not have 100 shillings, but I have an extra packet of unga. I have an extra this and that, and you see, I have half a loaf of bread and all that, and also ensure first that you are catered for first, because now it's on.
Now, yes,
you're going on.
You have to love yourself first,
You can't give everything out, but then again, it's good if you're a support system for someone. Find out where can these people get help. Because there are people who are really helping others. There are people who are, I've seen a lot of people collecting foodstuffs to help the poor. So it's good if you have the ability to go online, find out who are these people and how can I link someone. Linking is also helping.
Is helping, yeah.
Yes. So who are these people? I've seen some Indian companies offering help and all that.
Yeah.
So I've seen Rotary giving some people some help. So how can I link this person? Since I don't have, I just have enough for me. How can I link this person to these people who are providing these goodies for the poor and they get help? Other people cannot ask for help. There are people who would rather just die and not ask for any help.
Yeah.
How can you reach out? If you know this is the kind of person I work with, they just lost their job, reach out, share what you have, and be able to just encourage someone and say, yeah, tomorrow will be better, because nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. And now to this one that might be happening to many of us, but sometimes you don't even know it. In a way, we have been exposed to so much don't care-ness, so to speak, for lack of a better word, yeah? And you find that there are people who are still getting their salaries. There's people who are their jobs have not been affected. Probably they have been affected positively in the sense that they're now working from home. Now they don't have to spend money for fuel, spend money for movement. And the very same people do not have students going to, or children going to school. So again, something that was meant for school fees is now here, and you have so much money for yourself to spend. So you find that you've been exposed to that aspect of don't care attitude, where you can sleep, don't care about the time, where you can wake up, take a drink alcohol as much as you can, because after all, tomorrow you're not going anywhere. I mean, and before you know it, it becomes a habit, and then a habit, then it's a disease. How do we work around that to ensure that, yes, whatever it is that we're doing right now, while it could be something that we're not used to doing, and it could be something that is interesting, that we do it in limitations, that it does not end up, harming us more?
I think it's just knowing that this is not permanent. And the more the economy has been affected, whether you're working on a full salary or not, it will affect you eventually. So what are you doing to ensure that when it affects you, you're fine? The people, you might think that, or maybe the essential services, like even people who are working for the government are not affected. But if the government is still not continuing to collect revenue, it will eventually get to them. So no one, we can't say that there are people who can't be affected. The more this thing is prolonged, the more it will affect more people. So it's good wherever you are. And if you're not spending, save that coin that you're not spending. Because we don't know how long this will take, and we don't know when it will affect you. And it's good to appreciate that this thing is happening and affecting people, even if it hasn't reached to affect you, but eventually it might get to you. So how ready are you for that? And seeing how people are suffering, do you want to get there? And if you have enough, can you reach out? Because people don't choose where they want to be in life. It happens. Can you reach out and help instead of having all this wastage, instead of just sleeping and doing nothing? What can you do to help improve our livelihood, or just reach out? And that extra time you have, what can you do to help the community? Yes.
Okay, as you struggle to stay, because again, very many people have picked lessons. I think I have personally picked mine. And sometimes you realize that actually all this unnecessary movement and, all this unnecessary going out and friends and everything, you realize that you've been reduced to you and your family, and that's it. And within this setup, we go through tough times. Some of us are not willing to come out and speak. Just how do we get to that point whereby, we still can reach out for help? What is the importance of reaching out for help as opposed to leaving yourself at that state where you have to deal with your own issues? Some of us assume that anyway, after all, she could be having her own issues. After all, we're not supposed to move around, so I cannot reach out to a psychologist and everything. So you die alone.
First of all, you have to know mental health workers are essential workers.
Caregivers, well.
They are there. They've established telecounseling, there's e-counseling, all these parameters are established already. So you don't have to move from the comfort of your home. You just need a number. You just need to call, like for instance, a money counseling center where they will guide you on how you can get a teletherapist, and you'll be taken through whatever issue you're going through. And it's okay not to be okay. This is not a joke. It's affecting everyone. You could be still working, but the pressure at work to perform, the targets and everything is like driving you crazy. Reach out. And insurance actually even covers for therapy. People don't know that.
And Matthew, by then, now that you mentioned it, some of the numerous people who are working out there, you know, you're going an extra mile because of the people who have been laid off. And you know, you're like, oh, okay, let me die some more, because after all, I'm lucky in comparison to a person who's left or who's lost their job. So, you know, you take so much than you can handle just because you think you're lucky. And this is not the time to speak and, you know, complain.
No, I think everyone deserves a listening ear. So it could be not the COVID issues, but you have family issues, or there's one child of yours that is not okay. So just watch out and see who is not doing well. How can they get help? Because if you don't help people right now, especially, I'm very, very concerned about the students. First of all, they're exposed to too much online activity. And the next thing is, these candidates, we've just dropped a bomb on them. Like, you guys,
you're still here.
Is a year that is gone, as in there's nothing that is happening. Whether you're reading online, whether you're putting so much effort, it's useless. You're going to repeat. That is very harsh on people who had targets, people who worked so hard, people who had plans. As long as they and as long as they are minors, we don't think it's important. We're not even reaching out on how they can be helped. And most of them are crashing mentally. And I think the government should also do something about that, and actually tell them what will really, really happen, because they don't really have to rewind or wait for another year to do their exams. And the poor kids are out there just wondering, what is this? Because you know, initially repeating was a punishment if you did not perform well.
That's terrible. You don't want.
Yes. Maybe you missed it by 1 mark and you feel like, oh my God, I cannot do this. My sister is in the other class. You know, it's so much trauma for these kids. What can the government do about that? Because if these experts just sat, they're the same people who come up with the curriculum. They can do something to ensure that that is not a lost year for these kids. They can test them according to what they've learned already. They don't have to rewind a whole year. And I am reaching out for even the CS. Yes. Because just telling these kids, because you're there, make a decision maker with your experts, that they will sit for the exam, the 2020 is lost. It's very, very harsh. And I have seen so many clients who are really struggling because of that. And it's so unfair, because there's nothing they can do about it. A decision has to be made.
Well, quite a candid discussion right there. There's still so much to touch on, but then of course, in the best interest of time, we'll not be able to do that. But we keep saying that it's incumbent upon you to ensure that you look up to take care of your own mental health. It's possible. And like you rightfully put it, I mean, reach out in the event that there's need to do so. Think about the other person, and you know, let's not stress out of this. Let's just take it as it comes and look forward to better days ahead. We'll be having more of these conversations as we continue, because then, like we say, this pandemic is here, and in as much as it's here, we need to have conversations that revolve around us towards helping us as a community. Thank you so much for keeping us company from the word go up until now. That's where we wind up Morning Cafe, as we look forward to see you again tomorrow, same time, same place, to enjoy the rest of your viewing. My name is Linda Alel. Thank you so much, Nancy Rahab, for the great insights. Nancy Rahab is a psychologist, and we get to wind it up on that very note. Goodbye.